Greetings to everyone at the Institute of Current World Affairs. I'm Jessica Reilly Moman, and I spent the last 2 years sailing the coasts of Mexico and Central America with my husband, Josh, aboard our 39-foot sailboat, Oleada. Thank you for being here and for supporting our journey, which has proven unique in more than a few ways. We visited over 50 communities and talked with people on some of the most remote coasts of the region about how their lives are impacted by climate change. On this adventure, and sometimes misadventure, I learned about the coastal and ocean-based cultures of Latin America, as well as what it takes to survive on the sea. I learned that people whose livelihoods are directly tied to the coast and ocean are at the front lines of climate change. But the ways in which it affects them surprised me and contradicts much of the current research focus and subsequent press coverage of global warming. I planned to be with you all this evening, but much like our experience sailing the coast, I have learned that the wisest route often means a change of plans. Si Dios quiere, they say in Mexico, if God wants. This is a fundamentally different way of looking at life than the Western mindset in which I was raised, which is both atheistically scientific and predicated on a timetable-specific, deliverables-driven economic structure. Obstacles to this way of thinking confronted me in every aspect of my life on the fellowship. While we were sailing, my love for plans tortured me as we had to forego a set schedule that the capricious ocean and intense winter storms would not permit. Si Dios quiere is about the most resilient survival. People who work immediately dependent on the natural world understand this phrase. The first person who told me this phrase was Alfonso, a shrimp fisher in Altata, in Sinaloa, Mexico, who took us out shrimping for a day on his sailing ponga. Before I went sailing, I would not have understood this phrase. But given patience for the unknown and flexibility therein, we got a rare glimpse into Alfonso's life. One of bamboo masts, homemade sails, salty twine, and family values. Alfonso is part of the first certified sustainable fishery in Mexico. The fishers rely on a combination of modern conveniences like outboard motors and time-tested techniques like sails. But this all rests on their specific climate in Altata, in combination with self-policing in the fishery, the preservation of the bar that protects the fishery, a hyper-local and international market for shrimp, local tourism, and strong leadership in the fishing cooperatives, just to name a few. In these factors lie the most fundamental lesson I learned about climate change adaptation. It's not really about climate. It's about all the other factors that create the foundation of the community. Si Dios quiere. The climate change may be out of their hands, but the rest of these factors are not. If the Altata shrimpers can remain flexible, for example, taking advantage of a market for sustainable shrimp, then the community, where all the men in Alfonso's family wave to each other from behind their sails, can maintain their livelihood, even as more intense storms batter their shores. I believe if we want to understand how climate resilience works, we have to look to the many subtle ways in which communities shore up their foundations. It's easy to despair when talking about climate change or sailing in a storm. This is not to say that we shouldn't fight tooth and nail for a green, carbon-neutral economy. It more recognizes the intrinsic flexibility that coastal communities, and every community, has when it has fewer vulnerabilities. Each person I interviewed gave us a clue to what could sustain a village, creating local stories still open to interpretation. Thank you to ICWA for showing me the importance of that never-ending search for stories, both in communities and in myself. Just like sailing in a storm, we must be ready to change our tack. I will spend the rest of my life learning and relearning this, surrendering myself to the flexibility needed to raise a daughter, sail a boat, and help communities rise above in an uncertain future. Thank you.